Hello, friends. This is Alia Jamal, the Heart Mentor. We are meeting for a weekly workshop, and today we are going to learn about something that each and every one of us experience, especially if you're a woman, then you might experience it a little bit more, and that is self-pity. So, what we want to do today, we want to learn how can I go beyond self-pity and how can I reclaim my power and my story. I am going to help you understand if you right away say, no, I have that's not me. I don't go into self-pity. That's not something I do. If you went right away into that, then definitely stay for the conversation. We are going to walk through what self-pity is, what it does for us, why it feels so good to keep going back to it over and over. But then I'm going to take you through a process how to come out of it, what to do about it, how to be present with your pain in a way where your heart stays open. Because what happens with all of us, we go through a challenge, and then that challenge becomes our identity or part of our identity. We go through pain, and that pain becomes suffering. And then sometime very silently, we're stuck in that suffering. Maybe sometimes it's not even safe to share with other people. So you silently suffer. That is not a very healthy way of being a human. There are other ways of being. I am personally, I think, pro in suffering and self-pity. So I'll be sharing with you what I have learned from my mentors, what in generally about self-pity and how I was able to get out of it um, for good and how it still visits me. And it's a continued process to find it, to transform it, and to live in a way where there could be pain, there would always be pain, but there doesn't have to be suffering. So, first, let's get into what self-pity really is. So, when you feel bad about yourself, like, I don't know what's wrong with me, everybody always leaves me, um, I'm gonna die alone, nobody's gonna get married with me, I will never have this, I will never have that. When you're having that dialogue within yourself, that is self-pity when you're feeling really bad about yourself. And even though it doesn't really feel good to be there, at the same time, it feels good to be there. And sometimes that is how we exist with ourselves, and we don't even know how to get out of that. And you might not be the person going around saying these things. This might live like many miles deep within you. And you're not even aware that that is how you exist with yourself. On the top, like me, you might have a beautiful smile, but deep down there's a whole chaotic, um, catastrophic storm going on. So that is what self-pity is. Feeling bad for yourself, going back to that story, repeating it over and over and over. Now, we are not here trying to minimize our pain or minimize the trauma that you have been through. That's just part of being a human. We all are going to go through various degrees of challenges. Some of them seems like they break us, some of them seems like they make us. That's part of being a human. What I want to talk about, how can I exist with all the challenges that are going to come to me in a way where I am not turning against myself? And that is how we come out of it. So before we talk about that, why do we keep going into self-pity? So it gives us something very specific. If there's a repetitive thought, if there's a repetitive pattern, if there's a repetitive belief, it exists because it does something for me. And usually the exchange is energy. It gives you energy. Even when you sit with yourself and you're having a whole pity party all by yourself, it's giving you some energy. It's giving you something. One thing that it gives all of us is it's familiar. Because it's familiar, it feels safe. So sometimes we don't even talk to our friends because they might try to get you out of that mindset. So then you're like, you know what? I'm not going to share with anybody. I'm just going to go home, eat a pint of ice cream, cry about it, and, just be with myself. But in being with yourself, you're really going deep into pity party. And if someone will try to take you out of it, you don't want to come out of it. I have been there myself. I will argue to the teeth if anyone will try to take me out of it, because that is what it was, that is how it was, and it was true, and they are not recognizing. So I understand that pain. I understand when we argue for our limitations or the walls that we have created around us. So it feels familiar. It gives you energy. So it feels safe. And we think it's harmless. No one can see it. And the next day you wake up and you do all your day, all your daily routines all over again. So it's not like, you're hurt or you're bruised. So we keep living with that self-pity. But my friend, what it's really doing deep down, it is corroding your foundation. So imagine if you're living in a home that is built from wood and they're like, I think it's called wood mites. They're in there and they're just eating it away. What's going to happen one day? The whole house is going to collapse, or it's not going to be something so strong that you'll be able to build. Let me just allow the person to come in. Somebody is joining us. Just uh, okay. Um, so coming back to what we were talking about, I pinned myself, so we'll be just seeing me. Um, so what we don't realize that our whole house can collapse because the foundation is weak. And I can tell you, if you have been a person who does indulge in pity party, it's very hard for you to trust. You're a little guarded. You can't really feel the depth of life. You might say that you're a person who feel their feelings, but you always keep a little bit distance from people because you just in case. So we don't really get to experience life. We don't really get to feel life when we are indulging in self-pity. And it takes away a lot of energy from you that you could be using to create something different, something more beautiful. Because whatever has happened to us in the past, it's part of the journey. And right now, here you're sitting, you can indulge in pity within yourself for next decade, or you can carve a different path. So I personally stayed in that for 8 years. So I can tell you it's very easy to stay in that for a decade. It took me 8 years to even learn what I was doing to myself. The second time when I went through betrayal, it took me 1.5 years to come out of it. In the beginning, again, I couldn't even see that I'm going into that pity. I thought that I'm not. I thought that I was doing, just fine. I was happy. I was everything. But when I became very honest with myself, because it requires being very, very honest with ourselves to really be able to see that we are still going into that pity. So it does a lot of damage within us. It's not harmless. It damages your aura. It's continuously creating, let's say if right now I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna feel bad about myself, all that energy I have already put out in the universe is gonna come back to me. When it's gonna come back to me, it's going to come back in more negative experiences. It's not gonna come as positive experiences. So I'm gonna show you how you can feel your pain without the suffering of the self-pity and to be able to get on the other side. Very quickly, I'll share that last year I discovered some, I would say, underlying disease within me that has always been there. Autoimmune disorder, always been there. Western medicine can't even detect it because, Western medicine is for a different thing. It's not really to heal you, it's more to try to save you when everything is fallen apart. So I was working with a naturopath or Ayurvedic practitioner, whatever you want to call it. I call him a herbalist, and he was able to detect it. And then I know doing the work that I do, I know every disease has a frequency attached to it of an emotion, a very specific emotion. So after 6 months of taking medicine and things not really changing, I sat with myself for next 3 months and I went deeper and I went deeper and I went deeper. And guess what I found was self-pity. That was the root of that thing that has been with me my whole life. And I didn't even know that this is something weird or off, that you have a traveling pain in your body and it just keeps traveling throughout your body. It was a joke that I grew up with, my body pain just travels. But that's not how normal human lives. So maybe you've been living with the pity party within you and you don't even know that it's there because we've been living with it for so long. And once I worked through that, you know what happened? That pain never returned. And it's a continuous work that I do. I am consciously always looking for pity party within me. Am I feeling pity here for myself? Am I feeling bad for myself? On the surface, it seems like something very small, but it completely transformed the way I experience life. So just wanted to share that story. Pity party is not harmless. It is It is really powerful destroyer that exists within you. It feels very cozy, familiar, um, but it's doing a lot of damage. Now, the pity party is fueled by the story you tell yourself about yourself. So I used to tell myself, like, way way back in time, I used to tell myself there's something wrong with me. That's why this happened with me. Maybe I have done something wrong. Everybody told me you must be a very sinful person to go through something like that. So maybe you need to, like, repent to God. Why you have so many troubles? So, families, they love to give you that kind of input. And my life just kept becoming more miserable because of that story. But our story, or whatever story you tell yourself when you sit with that pity party, that story comes from a belief about yourself. And whatever belief you hold about yourself, they are inherited. We got that either from our mom or our dad or from our lineage. No, no child come in this world believing there's something wrong with me. Yes, on our soul journey, we do choose the parents. My soul needed to come to the parents who had that belief. I inherited, and in my adult age, I had to work through it. I had to see the damage that that belief was doing within me. So find your story, find the belief that is fueling that story, because that belief is dictating your emotion. It's dictating your action. You keep going back to that low place. You keep going back to that low place. And you know what happened? You become a hamster on the wheel. You never see a way out. Your life keeps moving. It seems like everything is moving, but internally you're stuck. You might get a good career, you might get this, you might get that, but your internal experience of life stays the same. Miserable, constricted, not genuinely happy, not very peaceful. We try to put bandage on it with gratitude, be grateful at least you have that, but that's not what truly being a human mean, my friend. Being a human is really feeling the creative force within you and channeling that creative force, not as a person who doubt themselves or who have trust issues, but as a person who know their ability to create. It's a very different feeling. And once you taste that, you don't want to go and live any other way. But most of us, we don't even know what that feeling is, what it really means to be a human. So let's go through a process. Before we go into the process, I just wanted to share two more things. Why we are addicted to the pity party. When you run that story within you over and over, there are some very specific neurotransmitters that are released, and it's a familiar path. So we keep walking on the familiar path and we get addicted to those low grade emotional hormones, right? We get used to that. When you're in a pity party, serotonin, which is the happy hormone, it's not very high in that moment. Our body gets used to that. Most likely your mom lived in that frequency as well. So it feels like you're back there. You're back home. But what it is, you're actually hiding. You're hiding from home. You're hiding away in a cave. And that feels very addictive. And there's a physical addiction attached to it. So what we are going to do, we are going to learn how to create new neural pathways, and it's not going to happen overnight. I'll show you, and then you'll do the practice. Every time pity parties show up, go into that practice, go into that practice, spend alone time with yourself, talk to yourself, and you are going to create new neural pathways where you'll be able to create life that your soul came here to live, not the life or the timeline that your parents have been living and you've been just following on that because you're inherited the same belief, same emotion, and same way of being. Um, the other thing I want to talk about before we jump into the processes, there's so many notes I have over here, is we have a need to hold on to that story. This is what happened, and this is why it happened. Because that feels like it's your identity. You don't even know who you'll be if you let it go. Like, when a extremely wealthy person goes through bankruptcy or something happened and they become poor, and let's say if they never come out of that pity party, what will happen? It will be a poor person who's trying to say, like, I was rich and everything was fine, and then economy did this to me, and then this is who I became. They keep fighting for that victim position, and they keep having that internal pity party with themselves. And sometimes they just leave the world that way. They never come out of it because they can never see their life beyond that story. So we are going to learn, why am I holding on to this story? What is it doing for me in terms of how I see myself and how we can shift it? One more nuance, pain versus story. My friend, as long as you're in a human body, one thing I can guarantee you, there will be pain in your life. Because through pain, we learn that I am more than this body. If your life is beautiful, you'll never come to that question. And one of the most inspiring story is story of Buddha, who lived in such a luxury life. He didn't know what was suffering. And once he saw suffering, that is what transformed him. That is when he wanted to go to a level that is beyond suffering. He wanted to show people how to go there. So if there's no pain in your life, my friend, um, that is where maybe you're just, running away from things. You're not looking at things. Maybe you're just sitting there numb. There will always be pain. But now you suffer after that pain where you get stuck in that hamster wheel. That is a choice that is in your hand all the time. And I just want to share that because so many time I do talk to my friends and they think like, if I'm suffering in this world, this is karma. My friend, that is not karma. Every human is going to experience pain, whether I suffer or I don't suffer, because if I am choosing not to suffer, there's a very different mechanism that happens within me where I do something about it and I change my whole karma lineage. Like if right now I choose I am going to, let's say if I don't know how to manage my health very well, right? I'm not drinking properly, I'm not eating properly, I'm not exercising properly, and now there's a disease popping up, right? And or maybe I'm not thinking properly. Sometimes that is the cause of a disease as well. And then I say, maybe I'm suffering before because of like one of my past life and it's good and I'm gonna let myself suffer and this is cleansing my soul. It is a very common mindset, especially for people who are in spiritual communities or who consider them spiritual slash religious. It exists everywhere. But here's the human power. If right now I change my nature, what I do, I change my nature. It's very natural for me to crave sweets. It's very natural for me to run away from vegetables or whatever it is. When I change my nature and I change it in a way that I become so different. I become a person who hold myself accountable for what goes in my mouth. Maybe I start going to the gym. Maybe I hire a health coach. Maybe I hire a personal trainer. Now, let's say if you're my friend, you're meeting me after 6 months, you're like, oh my God, Alia, you have become such a different person. You know what I did? I changed my karma. I changed every um, lack of responsibility I have had in my past lives. So, you know what's going to happen? My future life is going to be very elevated. In every moment, we have the opportunity to change our karma. And ever since I have learned that, my friend, I love to jump timelines and align with different pathways my soul has, but that is the power we have. That is the power God put within us. God exists within us, and we can change what happens to us, what happens forward, how we can share that light with so many other people. So I just wanted to share that because every single person I have talked to who go into self-pity parties, somewhere deep down, they have this belief that, suffering is cleansing me. Suffering is a choice. If you don't remember anything, remember this: pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. If you want to let go of the choice of suffering, you got to become a different version of yourself. And that change is very difficult because we're addicted to who we have been. So let's dive into what are we going to do. So think of your pity party. So this is the process I'm going to take you. Think of the pity party that you have. Whatever goes on, what are the stories you tell yourself when you're feeling down, when you're feeling sad, when you feel depressed, sometimes even when you feel angry. What is it that you tell yourself about yourself? It could even be like, that person betrayed me because I was so gullible. That person betrayed me because, I'm too easy to trust other people. Like, what are the stories you tell yourself about yourself? So that's the first thing. And then we are going to ask ourselves that what those stories do for you, what that moment of self-pity does for you. So let's say, imagine, something happened in your life maybe 10 years ago, 1 year ago, and now here you are sitting by yourself, thinking about it, thinking about yourself, thinking what happened, feeling bad about yourself. What's happening within you? What energy it's giving to you? Now you can do your own list. I can share a few. It gives you connection. In that moment, you feel very connected with yourself because you're right there sitting with yourself, thinking about yourself, thinking very negative, but who cares? You're connected, you're with yourself. It's just like, a couple who doesn't know how to connect in a positive way. They keep connecting with each other through fighting. They keep fighting with each other. Um, so that's the same thing we are doing. So they connect with each other in a toxic way, but that's still connection. So a couple who fights, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with their marriage. They just never learn how to connect in a healthy way. So when I'm connecting with myself through pity party, I never learned how to connect with myself in a healthy way. That's why I do it. Another thing that is happening in that moment, presence. You're present with yourself. At least you're here. You're not out there doing everything for everybody else, being busy. So see, what is the self getting from you is getting connection, it's getting presence. Who doesn't love that? We all love presence and connection with another person or with ourselves because it gives us energy. And the last one is validation. It's validating whatever you went through, it actually happened. It was real. And you have a right to be mad about it. It's validating what I went through. Because if the validation is not there, then we feel very empty because most of us, we don't even know who we are. So without that validation, like, we have identity crisis within us. I don't know who I am if I don't tell myself that story. So we validate our suffering or our struggle by having that pity party. And I will tell you the last pity party that I worked through was, my siblings walking away from my life. And what it really came down to now, this is me being honest, vulnerable. What it really came down to, I didn't know if I let that go, if I'll ever have any connection with them. That was the connection I felt every time I had that pity party within me. And it validated whatever was done was wrong. So if you have a friend who connects with you, who's present for you, who validates you, would you ever let them go? So that's why we stay friends with pity party. But in the beginning, we talked about the damage it does to our system. So it is one of those things that's not good for you. Just like, being addicted with alcohol, whether it's smoking, whether it's coffee, we can stay addicted to them. They are not good for us. They are slowly poisoning our inside. So now this is how we are going to come out of self-pity. So imagine maybe later tonight, you're about to go to bed and pity party comes with full force. This is what you're going to ask yourself. Every time I'm going into this cave of self-pity, what am I avoiding? So the question is, what am I avoiding when I go into this self-pity party cave? So imagine, just visualize there's a cave, you run there. And you sit there, you sob, you feel bad about yourself. Maybe you eat ice cream, maybe you eat a whole pie of pizza. But what is it that you're avoiding? And you might not be able to connect with that right away. So I'll give you a little guidance and then maybe your avoidance would be different. This is what I do. Taking ownership of my power. So when I sit with that pity party, in that moment, I'm avoiding taking ownership of my power. What is my power? I can write a different story. I can choose a different emotion. I can choose a different thought. I can create a different life. When I shared what I was going through with my mentor, and she said, "Okay, Alia, I understand you're going through it. Just go live your best life." And I sat with that sentence for 2 months because I didn't know what is my best life where my siblings are not part of it. I just didn't know that. So I avoided taking ownership that I can create a life that is my best life and it does not include anybody else. Because again, the limiting belief that I had that was feeding the story and I was the hamster in this wheel. The next one is it's like, making a different choice. Whenever I go to pity party, what I'm not doing, making a different choice. I can also sit with myself and I can, you know, feel good about myself. I can tell myself, this is what you went through. It's okay. You don't have to feel bad about yourself. Or I can choose to write something. I can choose to acknowledge something. I can choose to see beauty in that. Because what that will do, that will literally change the neural pathways in your brain. It will create different neurotransmitters in your brain. And I have lived both sides, so I can tell you, you literally feel a difference inside your head when you start shifting the way you interact with yourself. And the last one is most important. choosing a different belief or emotion or story. So, in all, we run away from the power that we have. We don't take ownership of that power because what will happen if you took ownership, you won't be a victim anymore. Why we go into victim? Because it gives us connection, it gives us presence, and it gives us validation. Now, look at this. How are you going to give yourself connection next time? So let's say if you know pity party is coming so hard, I just want to sit there and feel bad about myself. How can I feel connected with myself in a healthy way? Very easy. Hug yourself. It's a very easy way. Hug yourself. You can even kiss yourself, like, on your hand like this and just say, I love you. This is a healthy way of connecting with yourself. When we develop a healthier relationship with ourselves, which is my expertise, that is what I teach, you start to connect with yourself in such a healthy way. There's no need to connect with yourself through pity party or other toxic ways. So figure out what is your way that you can connect with yourself. Mine, easiest, just hug yourself, tell yourself I love you. Presence. When you allow yourself feel, when you allow yourself feel the pain without the story, that is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. I was just having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and she was like, but how do we do that? Again, it's a skill. It's a skill where you'll just sit there and you would let the pain come. Let the pain take over your body. Don't say, this happened because X, Y, and Z. Just keep your mind still. Let your body feel the pain. That is the most powerful presence you can have for yourself. See, the other presence was, I'm here to tell you a story. No, I'm not here to tell you a story. I will just sit here with you holding your hand. One of the most fascinating thing for me is when a human passes away. And when someone dies, and for me, the closest I have experience is when my nephew passed away. So, when this mother, she has just lost like, her 26-year-old boy. You don't have words to say anything to them. So what we do, we just sit there in silence. And that presence starts to move that person. It starts to give them strength. It starts to help them heal. But you can give yourself that presence yourself. You can sit with yourself in your pain. No stories. The stories will come. Let them go. Stories will come. Don't pay attention to the story because your mind is going to keep going unless you at some point learn how to control your mind. Your mind is going to be like this. Just stay focused on your body. This is my body feeling right now. And that's okay. And then the last one is validation. The biggest validation you can give to yourself, give yourself permission to feel. It's okay to feel this. It's okay to feel this, especially when someone has hurt us so deeply. Again, that's part of the soul journey. They played a role in it. That's all is valid. But, there's the human aspect. When someone has hurt you so deeply, sometimes letting ourselves feel that pain seems like a betrayal to ourselves or loyalty to them. Like, they hurted you. Why are you sitting there crying about them? So what we do, we don't let ourselves feel. We keep ourselves busy. We try to move on. We try to do other things. But when you give yourself permission to feel, that is the biggest validation. It's not in the story because the story is always going to be tainted by your limiting beliefs or your inherited beliefs. But you can let yourself feel. That is the biggest validation. So let me show you how it's going to look like once you start implementing it. Somebody did something negative towards you and you're hurt. And now it's nighttime and you're sitting there and your mind wants to tell you all these stories. People always do this to you because you're such a loser and you're this and you're that, or you want to feel bad about yourself. Why does bad things always happen to me? What is wrong with me? Instead of going there, it will come. It will come like a big storm that you won't be able to control. In that moment, first hug yourself. Hug yourself. Hug yourself tight. Give yourself a kiss. Tell yourself, I love you. You know, my favorite sentence is, Alia, I love you even if no one loves you. That is my favorite sentence. Give yourself that sentence. Give yourself that connection. And then take deep breaths and just feel the pain. Don't pay attention to the stories. Just feel the pain. A very beautiful trick is follow where the pain is going in your body. Ask yourself, pain of this betrayal, where it's in my body. Oh, it's in my stomach. Is it going somewhere else? Follow that pain as if it's a moving thing within you. You can even allow it to take over my whole body. You're allowed to be. That's validation. So when we do this, what we are doing, we are rewiring the same patterns that exist. We are acting in a different way towards ourselves. We are present in a different way. We are not really going to low emotions. What we are giving ourselves is compassion. The biggest thing we can do with someone else is sit there with them in their pain without wanting it to go away. That is the most powerful thing you can do for another human, because what we do usually, we try to make it go away. We tell them jokes. We're like, oh, don't worry. This one is gone. The next one will be better, because we want to fill up the space. Pity party goes away when you become okay with the space, when you start creating space within you on demand. Then you don't have to run and hide in a cave. Then you can be here and feel it and face it. And the most important thing about the story, you're going to ask yourself, does this story give me life or give someone else life? And usually the answer would be no. Then ask yourself, what is a story that will give me life or that would give life to another person? For example, your story is, well, there's something wrong with you. So the opposite could be, you're perfect. Then tell that story to yourself all day long. You're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect the way God created you. You're perfect the way you exist. There's always room for improvement. Improvement is different than criticism or pity party, because that's evolution. If your story is why this thing always happens to me, you can turn it around. These are the experience I'm having right now. What else can I experience? What else can I experience? What else can I tell myself? I can tell you, my friend, within 4 years, this is the work I did within myself. I went through from being broken into million pieces, extremely sad, depressed, and all the things in between, to in less than 4 years to getting married to the other part of my soul. 4 years. I learned how to create a different reality, a different story within myself. The discipline and the devotion was me asking myself, what else do I want to experience? What else do I want to experience? What else do I want to experience? That power led me to a different version of myself, a different experience. If I didn't receive that help that I did, most likely right now I would be feeling exactly the way I felt in 2020, just a little bit better, but definitely living in the pity party. Definitely living there, most likely single as well too, because I didn't even trust enough to open my heart to anybody. So that is the power that's within you when you make the decision to change yourself. It's not going to happen on its own. It's not going to happen because you read a book or you had a meditation. It is the work where you change the neural pathways within you, and you change it with repetition. Whatever I shared with you, just do that for a week, and you will see that you're going to meet a different version of yourself. And now here comes the part where you keep your heart open, no matter what you're going through. Even when the pity party comes up, and if you forget everything else we talked about, just remember this. You're ready? Here's the key to your heart and go beyond ever needing to have a pity party. And that is, do not take anything personal. That person betrayed you. Oh, there must be something wrong with you. No, don't take it personal. They betrayed because that's who they are, or that is the role they wanted to play, or that is the role they were meant to play in your life. Why do we turn around and tell ourselves story that, to bring logic in it, like this happened because of this, and that? We do that because that's how we find safety within ourselves. We can also find safety within our heart, and that is by repeating to ourselves, do not take it personal. How anyone behaves towards us has nothing to do with us. It's a reflection of their inner world. But the way you behave towards yourself after the way they have behaved with you, that shows who you are. So if anytime someone is criticizing me, I turn around and I criticize myself, that is the work I need to work on, not them. I won't say there's something wrong with me. That's why they criticize me. No, they criticize me because that's what they do in life. That's how they interact with life. Why am I sitting here criticizing myself? That is my responsibility, my ownership to change. So just to recap, life will always have pain. That's how we transform. Nobody has transformed in comfort. We are caterpillar in a cocoon about to become a butterfly all the time. That is the stage we are in. There's a part of you that is always ready to become a butterfly. So there's going to be that squeeze from life. If you stay connected with yourself and you stay present with yourself and you continue to validate yourself, then you don't fall into the suffering, being the hamster in the wheel. Then you don't go there. And you ask yourself, by going into the suffering, what is I'm avoiding? And usually the answer is ownership. Ownership of your power to change the story, change the emotion, and create a different life. And my friend, the easiest way to create your life is a pen and a paper. If you have never done this, grab a paper, especially we are in the energy of new moon, a very powerful new moon, just came out of um, the solar eclipse yesterday. So there was a lot of release, new energy, new windows open. Grab a notebook, grab a pen, and write on top my life and write rest of the story. You can even start with at what age you're going to die. When you're going to die, how many kids you will have, how many grandkids you will have, how much money in your bank account you will have, what is going to be your will, what is the house you'll be living in. You can even start there. Who you will be surrounded with. You can start there, or you can start with this is where I'm right now. I'm sitting here, and this is what has happened 10 years down the road. Now I live here. Now this is what's going on. Now this is what the person is with me. This is how I move. This is where I go. It is that powerful. In 2018, when I had no courage to get the divorce, I wrote down my divorce story. And in 2020, just 2 years after that, it happened exactly like that. And I didn't find my journal entry till I believe it was 23. That's when I was going through old journals. And I was shocked how precise it was, the whole post-divorce journey. What I created with my son's father after the divorce, that life was exactly what I wrote down. And what I did in 21, I wrote the life that I'm living right now. What I did exactly 3 years ago is exactly the life I'm living right now. So do not forget the power of your pen and what you can write. So with that, we are coming to a conclusion. If you have any question, please feel free to reach out to me. For those of us who are with me here live, after I pause the recording, we'll go into the Q&A. And I just wanted to share that the one of the most powerful program that I offer beside my 101 is Unlocked Heart. And it is starting on September 23rd and September 24th. I have two different time zone, two different like dates available that you can join based on your lifestyle. There's an evening time, there's a midday time, whatever suits you. If you suffer with self-pity, I highly, highly, highly recommend that. That program is designed to unlock your heart. We work through 8 different blocks of your heart. If nothing else, this is what you will walk out from that program. You would know when your heart is closing and you would know how to keep it open. And my friend, that is having the key to the magical garden that exists within you. All the creative force, everything comes from your heart. And in my opinion, every woman is supposed to go through that, but whoever is ready, this is for you. You can go to my website, aliajamalcoaching.com, and you can, get book whatever, enroll in whatever time works for you. And I'll see you all next Thursday. Bye.